And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening all of our shows. And if you can, please give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, Game Source, the great guys at LakersBall.com, the great guys at Lakerholics.com, and the great folks at the Hoopheads Podcast Network. And if you can support all of that, it is sincerely appreciated. Well, on the back end of the show, I'm going to remind Sean to remind me to make sure we talk about the California Classic. I want to make sure I mention all the great comments that he had. Well, slow down, Sean, slow down. But I want to go ahead and mention that later on why I said to slow down. So we'll go ahead and talk about that in a bit. But right now, first up, we're going to be talking about the Lakers off-season so far. Has it been a success? Has it been a failure? I'm going around the world of Laker fandom, whether you go to Facebook, whether you go to Twitter, whether you're all over in social media, and you're seeing the responses both on the one side and the other in regards to, has this been a success for the Lakers so far? We don't have Kyrie Irving yet. We do have Lonnie Walker IV, who signed the MLE, a full $6.5 million. Was that worth it? We'll talk about that. Also, as well, we'll talk about Damon Jones. We'll talk about Troy Brown Jr. We'll talk about Juan Toscano Anderson. Was this the free agent haul we were looking for as far as going ahead and providing the Lakers with a better team next year? We'll talk about that as well. But first up, we're going to go ahead and share the thoughts from the guys right here. And first up, indeed, is the first man here. He is the mastermind behind Lakerholics.com. It is LakerTom and LakerTom, the eternal optimist that you are. Hope all is well. Happy 4th of July and happy Canada Day weekend. Wanted to go ahead and mention that as well, especially since we got Sean here trying to go ahead and make sure all of our Canadian friends are taken care of as well. But LakerTom, you're on, and I want to go ahead and mention to you again, you know the haul so far. You are, you're just clearly convinced that the Lakers are going to land Kyrie Irving, and yes, they are still the odds-on favorite to do so, but as of yet, they don't. And you know me, I got to see it to believe it. Until that time, do you think this off-season has been a success so far?
Well, I think it's kind of unfair, Gerald, to try to split the atom there and exclude the what Rob Pelinka has done as far as the trade market. If I were to answer that first, even though I don't like the way you phrased the question, if I were to answer it, I would probably say yes. I think this has been a success so far, and I give a huge plus to the front office for the hiring of Darvin Ham. I think that if there was one thing that was significantly wrong with the team last year, is it had no identity. It just really did not have an identity. It didn't have an identity offensively or defensively. And the one thing that you have to always believe, in my opinion, when a team doesn't play well on the court, when you see consistently that there's a pattern that makes the team what they are on the court, and we all finally, some of us took a long time to be convinced, but we all finally came to the conclusion that this team was just horrible. They just didn't have any chemistry. They just were poorly constructed and poorly coached. So I think that I'm one who believes very strongly that the coach is one of the most important people in the entire organization. And in an organization like the Lakers, where you don't have a charismatic owner or a charismatic general manager, then I think having a charismatic coach becomes really essential. So I give the Lakers a huge plus for that. Secondly, I think the way they've handled the Russell Westbrook situation was really astute. I was kind of very critical of it at the beginning, but they hung through, and the public relations effort that they made to rehabilitate Russ, to set up the situation where they really told Russ exactly what he had to do if he was going to come back, which puts a heavy onus on him to be that kind of player or else be sent home. So they did the right things to set themselves up. And then I can't separate out the way that they've handled the trade situation, because I think that they have done a great job of sticking in there. The negotiations, the way they're going now, they could give up everything they got and still come out with a deal that is a lifesaver for the franchise. The one area where I question what they're doing is the same area that everybody does, which is the free agency market and what they did in free agency. I'm not a big fan of their choice for the mid-level exception. The reason, and I've heard from this, is that because LeBron James has not committed to the extension, that the Lakers are not willing to take on a contract that's longer than a year. When you look at the whole situation and the negotiations between Joe Harris and Seth Curry, what's the hangup? Why don't they want Harris? Yeah, Curry's a little bit better, but Harris is 45% three-point shooter for the last 3 or 4 years on a volume. They're both about the same. But Harris has 2 years in his contract. The Lakers tried to sign these other people for the MLE, but none of them would sign because the Lakers wouldn't give them a second year, because they didn't want to take a risk. Now they're reaching a point where you got Kyrie's on a 1 year deal. And if we're to believe what they're saying, they don't want to take back players on a 2 year deal. And that's why they ended up getting Lonnie Walker IV, who probably, I think they might have been able to get on a minimum deal, but they have a good buddy in Rich Paul, and Rich said, okay, you're stuck. Here you go. Lonnie will take a 1 year deal. He's an athletic guy. He has some potential. I hope the heck that he comes through and plays well. The rest of the team, basically, what Pelinka admitted is that we didn't get any of these guys for their shooting. We got them for their athleticism and hopefully for their defensive ability. The one thing I will say is everybody we signed was young, long, and tall. Unfortunately, none of them were 6'7" to 6'9". But
you can't shoot.
The one guy that
none of them can shoot.
Yeah, and none of them. Well, some of them can shoot, but there's no dead-eye shooter. But listen, there's two things that come out of this. One is that I think that Damon Jones has a good shot at being the Lakers starting center, and I think he can be a stretch five. I think he has that ability in him. I think the Lakers will develop it, and I think there's a good chance because he's going to be the best defender we have. I don't think that you can bring in a five who can't defend, and I think that we've seen that Damian has good hops, and he the 2 years in Sacramento where he got a lot more playing time than he would have gotten with the Lakers have really helped him. And then as far as the shooting goes, if the deal goes through and the Lakers end up with two starters named Kyrie Irving and Joe Harris, both of whom are over 40% three-point shooters for the last 4 years of their career, I think our shooting will be fine, man.
Well, again, we don't have them here yet. So as of now, how would you grade the offseason? Without Kyrie Irving, Joe Harris.
Without Kyrie Irving, I'd grade it a solid B+. And once we get Kyrie Irving, I will grade it a solid A.
Well, I would grade it as substantially higher if and when Kyrie Irving comes. Right now, I'm not as high as you are. I mean, again, going young is obviously a better move. Obviously, the long arms. None of them are noted as far as being a high-level defender, but even if they're adequate defensively, that's a great improvement for the team. I'm not going to kid you wrong.
They're players who can be developed, and we've built a coaching staff that is main attribute really is the ability to develop players. So you hope, and that's a good match, I think. Last year we had guys like Westbrook who would refuse to have Phil Handy help him with his moves or help him with problems of turning the ball over. This year, I think you've got a staff with Darvin Ham and Gent and Handy that is really probably 3 of the best, maybe 10 development coaches in the league at this point in time. So they got the right players that they were going after. I do think that it's scary to think that Genie's really holding them to not taking back any contracts.
Well, that is scary indeed. I will say, though, that one did come from San Antonio, which has been known for their player development. Another one came from Golden State, and we know how well they develop players there. So we'll see. Hopefully, they will now get to the period, where they're able to go ahead and take that next step, that next leap. But also here today to talk about what's going on with the Lakers offseason to date. And again, it's a little bit too early to judge, but as of now, it is what it is. It is a good man indeed. You got to go ahead and check him out when he's on the groups at LakersBall.com. It is Joe Soro. And Joe, glad to have you here, my friend. LakerTom is right. All signs are pointing for Kyrie Irving heading to the Los Angeles Lakers at some point, but he's not here yet. So your thoughts on what the Lakers have now, and obviously the hope that Kyrie Irving can still make it here to LA.
I don't really have an answer to that. There's really nothing that's happened really to judge anything right now. Free agency has only been on for what, 2 days, 3 days?
Going on day 4.
Yeah. It's like giving grades for draft during the draft. I got to see results first. I can't judge. I can't really judge this any other way. But if I had to, every guy they got has no shooting ability. And I've said this a few times. You come to LA with shooting ability and you lose shooting ability. If you have no shooting ability, you're going to really have shooting disability. It's just not, it doesn't look good at all. There's no point in having athleticism. And, Damon Jones, I know he's a kind of a freakish athlete, but is he going to be able to play smart? Is he going to be able to do the fundamentals right? Or are we just looking for guys that can jump out the gym? It's nice when guys that can't be that top tier NBA talent, but have really cool athleticism when you have a team that's equipped with the right players. And I'll give you an example. Everyone remembers Shannon Brown, right? Shannon Brown was the perfect example of that. I don't know why Shannon couldn't make the leap to elite NBA player, being that he had a freakish athleticism, but he didn't. And it's nice when you have a Kobe and a Gasol and a Bynum and a Odom on your team winning. It's a lot easier to watch the Shannon Browns do their thing because typically they'll do it in spurts where you need them, or they'll do it during garbage time when it's fun to watch him do his theatrics when you're up 20 in the fourth quarter. It's an interesting time in the NBA. I've been going back and forth on what's happened in terms of the psyche of the NBA player over the last decade. The igniter was LeBron James and the decision. And ever since that day, the NBA has become what's the word I'm looking for? It's muddled. It's a muddled league. We don't know really what's going on. There's hardly any continuity. And even when there is continuity, let's say the Celtics and the Warriors in the last few years, I'd say they're probably the only two teams that have kept their continuity because, injuries came about or the Celtics kept coming up short up until this year, at least going to the finals anyways. And at that point, it's interesting how that continuity ended up meeting in the end. And we're going to probably wait to see what Phoenix does next. Phoenix, from what I've read, is not willing to disperse their core. They're not going to pay Ayton because Ayton's not worth $40 million. I understand that. You could probably make up his effectiveness, maybe not his productivity in terms of stats, but you can probably cover his effectiveness with a couple of guys and build around Booker and what CP3 has left in his career, and then hope that you guys can get past Golden State next year for a title. But They had 2 chances this last 2 years. They should have taken advantage of it, but I don't know. It's going to be. I want to see kind of how that develops. So back to the Lakers. I can't really assess this, guys. I don't really feel anything for it right now. I have to see what happens. If Kyrie Irving comes, I'm very excited to see what package comes with him, because it seems like if the Nets are going to take on our largest bag in Laker history, largest headache, you're going to have to accept something back that you probably don't want to get back, which is Joe Harris is the topic, because he's making a lot of money, and it's probably going to take Jeannie into that luxury tax area where she doesn't want to pay it. So, but the thing with him is he has actually ability. Up until this year, he was averaging 73 games. The 4 years prior, he was averaging 73 games in those 4 years and was shooting 45% from 3. Now, when you come to LA, you usually drop about 5%. So if you're looking at Joe Harris and he comes to LA, he's going to drop 5%. That means he's going to be shooting 40%. Boom. We have a huge asset there in the LeBron James offense. So I'm excited about that. And then if we can somehow sneak in Seth Curry in there, now you're going to have 2 guys that are going to be shooting 40%. Just hope maybe Seth can be the outlier and not drop down too much. And then now you're starting to build a team that's supposed to support a LeBron James offense, because a LeBron James offense has never changed. It's like the Peyton Manning offense. I've said this a few times. It's LeBron James, and that's it. If you guys want to win, and he's won titles with it. So it's not like you can go over there and go, well, why doesn't he want to be coached? Why doesn't he want to be, in a system? Why is this coach this, and that? I'm like, look, the guy won 4 championships. He's been to 10. He ain't going to change in his 20th season. So you might as well get what he needs to make this thing viable. He's going to sign the extension. I think the second Kyrie comes to LA, should he come to LA, and if he can, if guys like Joe Harris, Seth Curry, or whatever other guard or wing that we can get that can actually do something when they're wide open, I think LeBron's going to take that as a sign of progress and a sign of him having a chance to go after Title V and sign the extension. And that right now is really the snowball. Once this thing goes through, should it go through, everything's going to start coming into play. And then at the end, guys, we still got to wait till what happens during the season. So I'm not really going to be too excited, because what's going to happen? I mean, what if monkeypox comes out of nowhere and all of a sudden Kyrie doesn't want to go outside? Now we're in trouble, and there's a lot of smog in LA, so maybe he might not want to breathe it.
Well, again, that's up for speculation and debate. You'd have to ask him.
Is it? Am I being funny or am I being legit here? I mean, there's a legit concern.
You never know. You never know what he's going to go ahead and pick a topic, and you never know when he's going to stay loyal. It is going to be a contract year for him. So if you would assume he would be on the straight and narrow, it would probably be this
His
season.
best behavior.
Yes, because the fact he is over 30, he is going on his last year of his contract. And again, if he would be looking for a long-term contract, now would be the time to go ahead and play at a level that we're used to seeing from him. Because again, when you have a Kyrie Irving that is going to be at a level that you're used to, that's a 50, 40, 90 player. And that's a player that can take you far in the playoffs. With the LeBron, you've seen that duo before do great things, so that's a possibility there. I don't mind getting Joe Harris. I understand it's a complicated issue with the tax and all that, but getting Joe Harris as another 6'7" wing would be outstanding. That can shoot would be even better. Seth Curry, great shooter, one of the best in the league. Statistically, one of the best in the league. But defensively, he gets picked on a lot. So that's something that would be concerned right there. So we're going to have to wait and see how this plays out. Again, 4 days into free agency, Joe's right. There's still more moves to be had. We still haven't seen the deal breaker yet for the outstanding deal that we're going to be seeing for whatever not Kyrie, but Kevin Durant. See whoever he goes to most likely still Phoenix, could be Toronto, could be Memphis, could be New Orleans, could be still Miami. I know a lot of these teams are still trying to work out the logistics when it throwing their best offer for Kevin Durant. So we'll see what happens there. And of course, as Tom said, once that domino falls, we hopefully will see the other domino fall in Kyrie Irving, headed to Los Angeles Lakers soon after that. That would make it a winning offseason. Although we thought the same thing last year, that the Lakers were having a real good offseason. We thought that all those shooters that had been on the table with the records that they had, they thought this was going to be a good season for the Lakers, but we'll wait and see. It didn't turn out that way. Now, again, they went to more youth, everybody under the age of 30 this time around that they signed up. Was it the right move? We'll wait and see on that as well. But if you have thoughts out there, we'd love to hear it in the comments, both Facebook and YouTube right here at the Lakers Fast Break, but also here today to talk about what's going on with the team. He's a good man indeed. He is the madman from Toronto. He is our good friend from Canada, and happy Canada Day the other day for you, my friend. It is Sean Grice, the Magic Man. And Magic Man, despite the fact that I think you're a little bit excited there on the Lakers Summer League so far after one game in the California Classic, I thought your next I'm just glad your next email didn't say Max Christie is the second coming of Michael Jordan. I'm just glad you didn't say that, but it seemed like it was heading in that direction. So I'll just leave it at that. But good to hear from you, my friend. Your thoughts so far on the Lakers offseason to date?
Gerald, I think it's a mix between Tom and Joe. I think they're both right, actually. I think Joe's right in the sense that because the offseason is to be continued, it's hard to really evaluate like the overall picture of the roster and what we're trying to do. But I also agree with Tom. I think we got long, we got younger, we got athletic. I mean, I like that. There's also continuity involved in this situation. Troy Brown Jr. and Lonnie Walker are best friends. And this was an opportunity for them to play together. So they've played basketball together. I just read an interview with Lonnie Walker. He said they've been playing basketball together for about 15 years. That's how long they've known each other. So I would imagine that was a double shot for Rob. He gets two young athletic players, and they also have chemistry with one another. So hopefully that'll carry over to our team. Again, I'm with Joe. I think that until the Nets find a resolution, that this is still all up in the air. And just as a housekeeping note, a few weeks ago, I had said some honest characteristics about the millennial generation, and I'd like my flowers right now because it that just boiled over in something that's unprecedented, and that's what we're dealing with, Gerald. I mean, we've heard the Faustian deal before. You make a deal with the devil. But this is something completely unprecedented because they made a deal with two devils, not just one.
They traded one devil for another.
Yeah, it's so Sean Marks is going to lose his job over this. That's I think the one takeaway.
Yeah, it's the owner who should lose his job because it's the Harden trade that screwed the whole thing up for these guys. And Sean Marks told him, no, I'm not going to trade for Harden. It's not a good fit. And so then he went to the owner.
Yep. Yeah. And
Katie
right,
wanted
Tom.
Harden.
You're right, Tom. Those are the kinds of decisions that cost you your job.
Yeah. And you're right that Sean will probably pay the price, Sean.
Yeah.
Well, and he's always been a great front office guy. It's a shame.
And ultimately now, I mean, how the hell are we going to know what kind of coach Steve Nash is? Because if Sean Marks is gone, Steve's gone too.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of dumping on him from people in the Nets, from superstars on the Nets.
I think this situation, like you said, Tom, I have a question for you gentlemen, because you're very intelligent.
Wow, you said two things there. That's highly debatable, but okay.
So, well, I mean, I'm allowed an opinion.
Okay.
Yeah. If you gentlemen thought if James Harden didn't get hurt and sit out, do you believe that the three of them would still be on the same team?
Well, but then you're also counting in what Kyrie did with the vaccine thing, as far as him not taking it and being out over half the season. That's still something.
Well,
that
yeah, that's a good point.
I have an answer to that, Sean.
I will admit that Harden and Kyrie it just seemed like they had no on-court chemistry whatsoever. It seems like it wasn't two sides of the same brain. It was like two different zombies trying to communicate with one another. I personally think that this situation was going to come to a head regardless. It just took an ace in the hole, and that was James sitting out for this thing to unravel, and we're stuck in limbo, and everybody else is stuck in limbo because ever since KD requested a trade, it's been radio silence.
Well, now you also, for the Nets, to make Sean Marks' job even worse, is the fact you're stuck with Ben Simmons, and the fact that he's holding up every major trade that you could do because of his contract is making it a whole lot worse.
Yeah, I mean that's Gerald, thank you for that, because now that's a triple shot. That's a triple shot.
You guys are you're reiterating in a louder voice what the Nets feel like at this moment. They're so tired of all this. So all this stuff about what ifs, and I'll answer that question, Sean, in a second here, and I want to get to this first. They're tired, and I'm tired for them, and I don't even care about the Nets. I'm sitting here going, these guys are trying to run a basketball team, and you have petulant children, and there isn't anyone bigger, at least that I've seen in the last 5 years, than Kevin Durant. I know Kyrie is can be put in there as well, but I just feel like the fact that KD has burner accounts and he's always tweeting about what Stephen A. Smith said, and the guy cares way too much what people think, way too much, and it's not going away, and that's taking focus off the team. James Harden is a slob, not in the sense of like he's a slob in life. He might be. I don't know personally.
Wait, hold on before you continue. Is that a James Harden shirt you're wearing there, Sean? I just want to clarify that.
I saw that.
Yeah, I thought I saw that.
Yes, it's a James Harden Houston Rockets shirt. Yes.
Okay, so before he goes into full blasphemy on James Harden, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
You have a guy. Sorry, go ahead, Sean.
The thrift shop.
I was just gonna say, when that 2019 season he had, it's one of the 10 greatest individual seasons ever. Don't at me.
Regular seasons.
Regular season. Yeah, don't ask for the playoff. It's not a playoff shirt, that's for sure.
No, it's not a playoff shirt.
We are enabling. Yeah. We've enabled these guys, and I'm sorry if this doesn't sound. I have nothing. I have this. James Harden has no. He's never done anything to bother me in terms of just things that would bother you, like how LeBron bothers me sometimes when he keeps talking about how he wants to play with other people, like things like that. James has never said anything like that bothered me. So I'm saying this based off of his attitude towards basketball. Okay, this guy was.
Well, he's committed right now. I wonder why.
Whatever. Yeah, I have a bridge to sell you too. This guy was catered to in Houston like he was Michael Jordan and in Chicago and like Kobe in LA, when he had absolutely no room to have anything like that, and he still wanted out, going and doing extracurricular activities when he's supposed to be in shape and ready for the season, plays himself into shape, then doesn't like what he's seeing, and all of a sudden now he's like, well, I want to go to Brooklyn. I want to go play with these guys. Like
he can actually play out of shape better than anybody else.
And we could, because his game is predicated on refs bailing him out. His game has never been nice. I've never thought of it in any other way but ugly. It's one of the ugliest games. He can shoot. He gets separation and he gets foul calls. He is. I don't like his game. It is lousy, and when he gets into the playoffs, it's obvious that when the refs hold their whistle a little bit longer in the playoffs, his game kind of deteriorates. And we've rewarded. We keep rewarding these guys, right? We keep rewarding these guys for being petulant children.
We don't, but those owners do.
No, we do. We do. We're going crazy to get Kyrie Irving right now. We're the problem. Just like in society, we sit there, we think it's not us. No, it's us. You and I right now, we're all excited about Kyrie Irving coming. Why? Because we wanted to get rid of that other guy over there, which sort of makes sense, but you're still enabling it.
He's our jerk. That's what it comes down to.
So he's not a jerk. He just performed extremely poorly last season. And his game is not fit towards the modern NBA. Yeah. It's that simple.
And look at the difference. Look at the difference between a Dr. Buss and all these other guys. When Kobe said, I'll play in Pluto, he this is reports that I heard, he sat Kobe down. He's like, dude, I'm not gonna trade you. So I'll do my best to try to get what I need in here, but I'm not trading. I just traded Shaq 3 years ago. I'm not trading Kobe Bryant all under 5 years.
The owner of the Nets should be saying right now.
So if I'm the Nets, I'm going now. I'm out of the Laker bubble now, okay? I'm going NBA common sense. If I'm the owner of the Nets, I'm going, dude, I ain't trading you. I go, I don't know what the heck Danny Ainge did over there in Minnesota, but he fleeced them for the next 50 years.
That's what we'll talk about in that in a second. We'll talk about the best trade and worst trade and worst.
I'm sorry, I'm not giving up 7 first-round draft picks for anybody.
6.
5.
Sorry,
and
6.
And a swap. Okay. And Walker Kessler.
Okay.
No, yeah, Kessler was
a 4 and a 4 and a
I was counting the draft pick too
in the first round.
Well, it totals out to 6, Tom.
It's 6.
It's 7 because they drafted Kessler.
Yeah.
I think that's number 6. I think.
Don't
but you're counting the pick swaps.
Don't interrupt me again. I know what I'm talking about.
I hate pick swaps. Get rid of the pick swaps.
That's another story too. I want to talk about. Anyways, so you're not going to get equal value. Anytime a star says I want out, you'll never get equal value. Your team is going to stink and your package is going to stink unless there's a team out there that says, look, I'm going to give up the next 10 draft picks because if I get Durant, and by the way, when I ask for those 10 draft picks, they're all unprotected. Or you go sit your butt down and go play basketball. I'm going to get rid of Kyrie Irving.
Unprotected picks now are like de rigueur, man. You want to pick? It's unprotected, That's
what else can you do? You're better off waiting it out at that point. Wait it out until somebody finally hits you up.
Well, but the problem is the Nets owner actually said, I would rather have a team that was losing all the time and playing hard than these bunch of guys out here.
Then why do you get Harden?
Well, yeah, it was his mistake, and he
made a mistake. Okay, I'll buy into that.
Marks in that deal, and we saw where that went.
It's obvious he's probably sat down and said, "My God, I was
But
wrong."
I mean, look at the package of guys that we've got. There's a little group that at one point everybody said was untradeable, which is Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and John Wall, and you got this whole handful of guys that all got the same exact contract.
The only reason why Russell Westbrook is tough to trade is because the Lakers have to get something to cover that. They need talent.
Well,
otherwise,
when you see what he did to the Lakers last year, Kyrie.
What I'm saying is,
look at what both of them did to their teams last year. That's why the only teams interested in trading are each other's teams.
Sometimes
it's trading the devil. It really is trading the devil, like Sean says.
Sometimes you go into
I'll swap my Satan for your Satan.
You get into that optimism. This is the problem with being optimistic too much. They got into that optimistic. I'm optimistic that it's going to work. We got tricked with Westbrook. I thought third option.
But if you get pessimistic, you never go for the big deal.
No, but you have to be realistic. You have to be realistic, and we
can't hit a home run if you don't swing.
We should have, and I say we as in us included, at least me. We should have said, look, we know Kuzma's not hitting open shots, okay? But he's playing good defense. He's long. He's athletic. He's a team-oriented guy who was never a cancer in the locker room. KCP played his butt off when he was playing. You had Caruso was doing what he was doing. We had the right mix with that team. We just maybe needed one more guy that might have been like it could have been a legit third option, but we were too anxious. Oh, let's go get, the third star and really, dig it in because we got to go fight off Harden, Irving, and Durant.
You have to do that, and that's the way that the Lakers have won through the years. Just look at the Warriors. The Warriors were able, because of those 2 years of sucking because of the injuries, man, they were able to stack up some players in the draft. And then when they got ready to get everybody healthy, they got 4 or 5 role players at minimum salary that other people are salivating over. But look what's happened. They've lost almost all of those players. All 3 of them have gone somewhere else. They hung on to Looney, but they're still going to end up, by the time they finish, with a $300 million luxury tax bill and a $200 million salary for $500 million.
But it might cost them with all the players that they've let go already in Otto Porter and Gary Payton.
Yeah.
The third.
Well, that's why because if you got Otto Porter, you sign him for 13, 14, I think you got $9 million. You sign him for $9 million, it costs you 30.
Yeah.
For me, their canary in the coal mine was the Kenny Atkinson situation. I think we talked about that before, Gerald. That's just illustrative of what Joe was saying about. And look, I stand by what I said.
Best franchise.
I think that was a real passive aggressive move by KD, and Sean Marks should have stood up to both of them and said, "Look, we're not bringing DeAndre Jordan in here because he's your buddy and you want to pay him $10 million. Look at the numbers. Jarrett Allen is a better player than DeAndre Jordan. He's better offensively with us on the floor, and he's better defensively with us on the floor." And the story goes, Kenny Atkinson had the spreadsheet, and he showed them. These are the numbers with DeAndre, and these are the numbers with Jarrett Allen. And Sean Marks still traded him. And like you said, Gerald, Jarrett Allen is
still signed him as a free agent. Yeah. Oh, still traded Jarrett Allen. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's an all-star. And it looks like he's going to be an all-star for the next 5 to 7 years. Look at Cleveland's defense. Cleveland was a top 5 defense with Jarrett Allen on the floor. As soon as he got hurt, they went to the bottom 5. That's how valuable he is on the floor.
Well, why do you think Minnesota made the trade for Rudy Gobert? Because they saw what happened in Cleveland when they did their version of the Twin Towers. They're trying to emulate it as well. So all the pressure now is off of Towns during the regular season to play defense. All he has to worry about is checking up 3-pointers and playing offense. And along with Edwards, they have themselves a pretty good regular season team.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think they'll win anywhere from 50 to 55 games. But to me, they're the new Utah Jazz. They'll have a really good regular season, but then matchups will just exploit their deficiencies in the playoffs.
Absolutely. So we'll see what happens. But before we head on out, and before we talk about the California Classic with the Lakers and how they're doing so far, they had a great game yesterday, a big blowout win, perhaps. I could probably say that, because they were leading all the way. And, I got the emails from Sean saying that he was making praise. And then we'll go ahead and talk about that here at the end just for a couple of minutes. But, guys, I want to hear your thoughts on the winners and losers so far of the offseason. I can't say the Lakers are a winner or a loser. Have they gotten exactly who I expected yet? Well, they don't have Kyrie Irving, so of course they don't have, that's neither here nor there, but they're not a loser, certainly. They've gotten younger, so hopefully they've gotten more athletic, and eventually, hopefully, even if they're all average defenders who you brought in, that still makes the Lakers a much better defensive team. So, LakerTom, I'll start with you. From what you're seeing, observing around the league, because I know your heart was broken many times during our live broadcast of the NBA free agency special because, that guy who went there, that guy who went there. But yes, they all signed for more than what the Lakers could offer them. Is there any deal that stands out to you so far? We'll do the best first. As the best
I think the best deal that anytime Danny Ainge can get a huge number of picks and 3 of them completely unprotected.
I agree.
From a team that looks like it might even start tanking down the road. That's a pretty good situation. It bodes well that all of a sudden, it's funny. 3 years ago, you never saw a sign and trade. 2 years ago, you never saw an unprotected draft pick go out. And then all of a sudden, all of us, the Nets giving up those unprotected picks. And now they're going to, that's changed the way the whole game goes. And one last thing I wanted to point out on the Nets that I think is really interesting, because it really applies to the question that the Lakers are facing, which is that I was a strong proponent before the offseason that the Lakers would go away from the 3 superstar model, simply because you cannot build a strong team behind that. When that money goes into that 3rd star, it just leaves you with a bunch of minimum salary players. Well, one of the things that is also important is that chemistry between those 3 players. The New York Nets, the guys that went to the Brooklyn Nets, when did they play together? Did they play together in the Olympics for 2 weeks, maybe? It's not like you go down and join Dwayne Wade in Miami and he knows all about everything that's being done in Miami. Or you're going to go join, if you're Pau Gasol, you're going to join Kobe Bryant or something like that. And I think that the same thing applies in this situation with the Lakers superstars, that if they get Kyrie Irving, he's got a record with, LeBron and AD have played together. Kyrie and LeBron have played together. There's a familiarity there that you inherit the culture of the team that you go to. In the Nets case, KD came in there and basically wanted them to get rid of all of those guys that had created that great culture that made the Nets such an attractive place. And he basically threw that out the window, not dissimilarly to how the Lakers front office threw out the window the championship team from the bubble, figuring that they needed to get better. And that's the way that almost every team, and the Warriors have exemplified that they know that every year they win, they've got to get better the next year, because the competition will get better just by the nature of the game of basketball in the NBA.
But are they better this year? That's the question. Dante DiVincenzo for Otto Porter and Gary Payton II. That's
but they got Wiseman and they got Kuminga and they got minutes coming from those 2 guys.
Moses Moody. Yeah, those players have to take that next step.
Gary Payton II a lot.
They're going to have to take that next step with the youth. But
yeah,
God bless you, Tom. You always go ahead and divert the answer. When I ask a question, I love how you diverted to a Lakers answer on that.
Answer.
But yeah, you did give us the answer. I agree with you. Danny Ainge, as much as I would not like to say it because he is a former Celtic, I think that he deserves a lot of praise for the trade, because I think that Minnesota is going to come to regret it in a not too distant future. Darrell Simmons, want to thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much also as well for the subscribership as far as it's concerned, becoming a subscriber. Thank you so much to everybody out there that's watching us. Again, NBA City, thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for John and Felix for your comments as well. Wishing you guys all the best. Thank you much to everyone who's watching us, the Lakers Fast Break. Joe, is there any, I guess, deals, whether it's a trade, whether it's a signing, that really catches your eye so far this offseason?
No.
From anybody?
No. I will comment on the Minnesota thing. My guess is they're allowing themselves to get fleeced on that Gobert deal, is they think Anthony Edwards is the next big thing. Because if Anthony Edwards is the next big thing, that trade will make sense in the end. That's where I'm going with that. Anthony Edwards turns into a MVP.
They also signed Slow-Mo, didn't they? They got Slow-Mo in it.
Yes.
Who else did they get? There's somebody else too.
Well, they jettisoned a lot of their rotational players.
Right.
Yeah.
But I like Slow-Mo.
They're gonna.
He's gonna really help.
I'm actually interested in seeing what they're gonna do with D'Lo. D'Lo would be a.
Yeah, they got another. That's another piece that they can Flip.
D'Angelo Russell is an intriguing player. The quintessential perfect player at the perfect team, if he can get to that team. Minnesota's never been that team for him. Even when he played in Golden State, too many guards there. When he was at the Lakers, it was too much drama around it. D'Angelo needs to go to a team that needs his skill set, and the Lakers right now would be one of those teams. Unfortunately, I don't even know how that could happen. But I would be intrigued to see because they're definitely going to move him. I would be interested in seeing if there was a way we could see what that would be about. But Minnesota's deal is it's Danny Ainge's draft pick fetish is unprecedented. I don't think I've ever seen anybody that was more in love with draft picks in the NBA.
Will he use them, though? Will he cash them in? Is a question.
That's always the question. He loves draft picks, I think, more than Bill Belichick. I don't know what he has no choice though. I mean, no one's going to go to Utah. They're going to apparently build around Mitchell, but
Mitchell might want to leave.
Well, if he may want to leave, but I'm getting word that they're not shopping him.
Yeah, but teams say that all the time before they decide to completely.
If they shop him, they're going to want something in return for him for sure.
Yeah, right.
I don't know who would, and if anybody's going to if anyone gets these guys, they can't gut the team. They can't. So he would have to say.
The Durant trade. Problem with the Durant trade is he's worth so much that any team that you trade him to, he might not want to go there after the trade.
It's going to have to be draft picks. It's going to have to, or Memphis. Memphis has enough assets and
but they want a star, and Memphis, they're not going to give him Ja.
Good luck. You're not getting a star.
They're not going to give him Ja, so that means
no. You would need a third. You would need a team that has a third star on it to get what you want.
That's us.
Which is who?
The Lakers.
No. Durant's not going to LA, guys. I don't even know why that's been brought up. Durant's not going to go. Durant's not going to go play with LeBron. Is the whole point of him leaving?
No, we could actually trade AD. AD would be the one player we are the only team.
If you trade AD, then I want Ben Simmons.
Listen, this is the simple truth of the matter. I can't believe I'm saying
that. I don't even know why I said that.
We're the only team that has the assets to trade.
I don't want anybody. No.
Are you okay, Joe?
Look. Just get me Kyrie Irving so we can get rid of Westbrook. That's it.
The Lakers came out and said they weren't going to entertain any idea.
At least with Kyrie Irving, he's going to give you. You know what's going to be beautiful next year if they get him. We're going to have a guy that shoots 90% from the line, and whenever we have a technical foul, it's not going to clank. Oh, God, I can't wait. I cannot wait.
I remember I had a supervisor when I was a civil servant firefighter, and he liked to dip his head in a bucket of ice water after a really bad day. And his head would be down there for about 2 minutes. This was a lot of people do this. Pat Riley's done it. I know a couple other people do it. It's a relaxing technique people use. My guess is after Sean Marks traded a first-round pick for Royce O'Neal, and then KD decides to tell him, "Yeah, I want out now. I want out." He dipped his head in the biggest bucket of ice water he could find. That was crazy. Royce
Everybody saw that trade as being a signal, and then that whole thing got derailed, Sean.
Yeah, it was like. So for me, Gerald, a big winner in the Western Conference was the Denver Nuggets. They've managed to hang on to Bones Highland. They acquired a first-round pick from OKC for JaMychal Green, of all people. They acquired Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and they've also signed Bruce Brown. That's a big haul, and it makes them better. And with that first-round pick, that tells me that Stan Kroenke is going for it now. His NFL team held up the championship trophy this year. His hockey team just held up the Stanley Cup. He wants an NBA championship in the worst way now. There's no doubt about it. So to me, Denver's going to be a really sneaky team. If there's some way that they can make themselves better during the season with a disgruntled star or some option opens up, watch out because they're going to be in the mix. To me, a winner in the Eastern Conference is the Atlanta Hawks. You basically acquired an all-star defensive point guard
Go with Trey.
to go with Trae Young.
What about Boston though? Boston with that Malcolm Brogdon deal, basically
That's a
trading
great
him
deal,
for
too.
for just
How about
That's-
OKC, man?
nobody in the
OKC.
rotation was affected outside of Daniel Tice, and
Right.
he's very iffy at best.
You don't
Problem
notice
is-
any complaints
it looks
about
like they're gonna
about
get
the injuries
Gallo,
that
too.
Brogdon is going to have too.
Brogdon and Gallo are walking hospital beds. I'd have to see them play first before I get all crazy.
Yeah,
It's a-
I
it's a
hate
good-
to think about seeing
It's
him
a
play.
good risk. It's a good risk on their part, but those guys, if they're going to play 40 games, I mean Gallo for sure. Brogdon maybe he felt unmotivated in Indiana. Maybe he'll feel motivated in Boston. But Gallo is one of the most, in my opinion, one of the players that I thought should have been much better than what he was. He's still a good player. He can shoot, but he should have been way better. He should have been a Dirk Nowitzki in my book.
And a loser in each conference, Gerald. In the Western Conference, for me, I think a team that basically took another step back for me anyway outside of the draft was the Sacramento Kings. I mean, you pass on Ivy, but now you acquire Kevin Huerter, who Jaden Ivey is like. Kevin's a great player. There's no doubt about it. Jaden Ivey is a better version of him, and you basically jettisoned a couple of rotational. I forget exactly the merits of the trade, but to me that doesn't work out. And you added Malik Monk. All right, Malik can give a shot in the arm offensively, but to me defensively they're just a mess again, and they'll continue to be a mess. And in the Eastern Conference, I mean, the big losers is Charlotte Hornets. I mean, the things could not. I'm not going to comment on that individual and what he did. It makes me sick.
Miles Bridges, just everybody out there.
Yes, it makes me sick. But.
And they don't need to dump salaries on the Lakers either anymore.
Charlotte had an opportunity last year when he had an up and down year to extend him to a really good team friendly deal, but they decided not to do that. We're going to play
They're
out.
probably glad now.
Yeah, but I mean.
Yeah, but right.
It's that situation is horrible. That's the second worst situation in the NBA aside from the Nets is the Hornets right now, because you're going to have to pay LaMelo Ball close to a supermax. I don't think he'd get a supermax, but it's close there. And aside from Melo, you've got PJ Washington, you've got Terry Rozier's contract. I mean, every year it's the same thing with this team. It's either 8th seed or bust. But now, because of this situation they're in, they can't really afford to tank. Because if you tank, LaMelo Ball is going to sign that extension, but in a couple years he's going to say, "Yeah, you know what? Check, please. I want to go back home. Send me to LA."
Well, yeah, I don't think LaMelo is going to stay there anyway. The most fascinating team to me still, when I think back to it, is watching what's going to happen with OKC. Man, getting Chet Holmgren and they got SGA. They got Dort into a good situation, man. They got some great players now, and they have so many draft picks that they can transform themselves in 2 years into a championship contender.
Well, you see that they can throw out 3, 4,
Well,
5
You
one,
want
number
5 or
ones
6,
that they
7
can
picks
throw
for
out.
your superstar? I'll give you 10. And
Yeah.
I still got 20 more in the bank. I mean,
Yeah.
like I heard one of the commentators on Sirius XM talking about, well, listen, regardless of what you think, if the Oklahoma City Thunder wanted Kevin Durant right now to bring him home, they could get him because they could beat any offer that anybody else has got. You can get 20 years of franchise victories from a horde of draft picks that you get from those guys.
Well, right
And
now
he can spread them out according to, it's almost like balancing your portfolio financially. You can spread them out among teams to figure out so that it's like covering half of the roulette table, with bets. I'm going to take these 18 numbers, and if one of them hits, I'm going to be a millionaire. So it was going to be fun. This is not the process was nothing. That process was a bunch of amateurs playing at this game. The way that OKC has handled this has been just it's going to be a study that's going to be talked about at every one of those basketball camps where they talk about those types of things.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I'm just going to say it's why Sam Presti is widely regarded as one of the best NBA executives of the past 25 years.
Imagine if he were the Lakers.
Oh my God!
I
wouldn't have to.
Yeah, you guys got to stop with this stuff. You drive me nuts. You guys with this greatest
What?
stuff.
He's a great GM.
He's
If
not.
The Lakers, he'd have
He's
a
not. No, guys, come on. Look.
3 MVPs.
You can't be the greatest when there are no results. It doesn't matter if he drafted Durant. First of all, Durant was the second pick. Doesn't matter if you drafted
advantages that certain teams have.
Guys, there's got to be. Look, if
Joe, it does matter.
It doesn't. They have just as many titles. Actually, Presti doesn't have any. Ainge has just as many titles as the buffoon, as we call him, Rob Pelinka. Okay, you guys are killing me over here. Look, these draft picks in the NBA, they're only as good as the titles that help them win. That's it. There is none of this. Oh well, he was really good at collecting 80 draft picks. Okay. I guess that's good in Oklahoma City.
Well, I think he's going to win championships. There's no question in my mind that Oklahoma City is going to win championships because nobody has amassed that wealth of talent that they have amassed. They have over 30 first-round draft picks.
You know what's funny to me? So I remember when Joe and Gerald were having a really, really spirited and engaging conversation regarding the Sonics moving to OKC, and you guys had specifically mentioned, Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. Well, their media training sucks because they helped create the two men that you see before you. Kevin Durant almost did no local interviews with the Seattle market. He did one interview with Kevin Calabro, who is the voice of the Sonics. And before that interview took place, there was a PR person from OKC who gave him a list of questions he can ask and a list of questions he cannot ask. So with all due respect to all the narratives out there regarding Russ and KD, I have a feeling Russ was going to be this prickly person as he always was. But the big deal with that was there's a local reporter in Oklahoma City named Barry Trammell who covers the Oklahoma Sooners, basically, before all this happened. He asked Russell one question, one innocent question, and he's hated the media ever since. So, for me, Sam Presti is just a basketball guy. That's all he is. He does not care what you do outside of his basketball court. That's why it works there.
Everybody's always
they have a strong fan base.
They do have a strong fan base.
That wasn't the case in Seattle. They don't have a problem selling tickets, which is where the majority of their money comes from, really, because Presti either wants the Thunder to be really really good or really bad. The thing about the Thunder and teams like the Pacers is they actually do a good job of trying to make the playoffs each year. Now, Herb Simon, who previously owned the Pacers, he didn't dip into the revenue sharing as other teams did because he had a competitive team. And Oklahoma City has the same model. So to me, he is one. Maybe I shouldn't have said greatest, but I think he's one of the best executives that the NBA has seen in the past 20 years, just based on the level of success the team has. Because let's face it, Oklahoma City is not going to base its success on championships. That's not realistic. It's like the Sooners now moving to the SEC. You're not going to be judged on championships anymore because you're playing with Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Texas A&M. You're probably not going to win another championship in all likelihood. But this is probably obviously, like Tom said, this is the best chance they've had since they've jettisoned their three MVPs. They weren't MVPs at the time. They got rid of them, but this is their opportunity here to try and build something up. And we failed to mention they still have Josh Giddey. I mean, you have Josh Giddey.
Josh Giddey's great. They've been drafting good players, man. I mean, I don't know if it's the same people who was the people in their office who drafted Harden.
Troy Weaver. It was Troy Weaver, Tom.
Okay. Well, what's kind of interesting because one of the things that you look at, everybody has sort of blamed the Oklahoma City Thunder for trading those three guys. It's like, man, you had three of the top 10 players in the NBA as young players together, and you couldn't make a championship team out of that. And yet now if we look back, though, at the history from team to team of those three players, Russell Westbrook's journey through the NBA, James Harden's journey through team after team that he asked out, Kevin Durant's journey through the Golden State and back, and I'm hearing now the Warriors are now going to put a bid in for Kevin Durant. They're putting together a package for him.
Okay, go ahead, Joe.
By the way,
players, and I'm not so sure that Oklahoma City should be blamed for trading those three guys, because I'd like to go back and see what they did get for the three trades and tally that up, because those three guys have done a huge share of damage in this league, and only one of them has won one championship, and that's it. Oh no, KD's won two.
Fantastic.
Three championships out of there.
Go ahead, Joe.
Fantastic information, Sean. That was beautiful. And as you were saying that, I started thinking about the Dan Marinos and the Charles Barkleys and the Karl Malones and the Patrick Ewings. They're still great players, all-time players, just because they didn't win a championship. Bro. So again, you guys, you and LakerTom, you changed me. You changed it right there, guys. You saw it live because it makes sense. I love when you people make sense, because I want to be told when I'm going the wrong way. Tell me to go right, and you did. Good. The issue with the whole Oklahoma City model in the end, not during the process, was this is how it is in sports, and it's something that I don't think we talk about enough. One little thing will change the whole history, future of everything. Ori's shot, Derek Fisher's shot, Ray Allen's shot. It changes, it changes everything. That one little thing. Okay, too, if James Harden had played a little bit better in the 2012 finals,
they would have won.
He would have got the max contract. They would have stayed together, and they would have won a championship. They were Westbrook and Durant were 3-1 against the best team ever in the regular season. Just those two guys. Imagine if Harden was on that team. They would have won at least a couple titles. There's no doubt if they would have kept Harden, they would have won the titles. And I don't understand. I just, as a basketball fan, the Warriors did it. Why didn't you guys do it? I don't know. I think LeBron James, not purposely, LeBron James set a course to the NBA that may not have ruined it financially or in terms of viewership. You hear a lot about that BS about, I don't watch the NBA. Oh, the hell, the NBA. Yeah, that's why the salary cap just went up $12 million. You're not watching the NBA, my butt. A lot of people yap and then they go watch it when no one's around. And the thing is, it's we don't have that John Stockton Malone playing for 13 years. Yeah, they were losing and they were losing and they were losing, but they just kept coming back. Detroit, same thing. They kept losing. They kept losing. They kept losing. They kept coming back until finally the wheels fell off. We lost that and same thing with Reggie Miller in Indiana. We lost that with LeBron. LeBron set a course that said, guys, I'm not staying here. I'm going to go somewhere else.
But if it wasn't him, it would have been somebody else,
Probably.
But killing off the head mafia
probably,
guy,
but it was the number one player of this era. So
he accelerated the movement.
If Jordan leaves, let's say Jordan leaves in 96, the summer of 96, there was some talk, okay? They had to pay him $30 million at that time, which was astronomical at that point. If he goes, and I heard this, I don't know if it's true, there was some rumblings, hey, if you don't pay me $30 million, I'm gonna stay in your division and go to Cleveland. So what happens then? What happens then? See, we can't sit there and say, oh, well, it would have happened. No, we don't know that. But the number one player of the era did it. And if Jordan had done it, if Magic had done it, or Bird had done it, other guys would have done it too. This is a copycat league, and this is a culture of copycats.
Kareem did it. Wilt did it. They both forced their way to the Lakers, just like Anthony Davis did. Look at the trades. The trades for both of those guys were nothing close.
I mean, teams are looking us.
Superstars have always gone where they want to go.
We only gave up 4 draft picks for AD. We didn't have to give up 6 or 7 like Brooklyn.
Inflation, John. Inflation, man.
And Minnesota has. We started it, but hell, we're not going to be in hell from it.
Nope. Well,
I want to go.
We're probably going to have to make the 2 picks that were given to the
LakerTom stumped me. No, LakerTom stumped me. I gotta go wash myself now.
All right. With all that said, though, it has been a spirited offseason so far. Not quite the haul yet we're hoping for from the Los Angeles Lakers. I know Jamie chimed in earlier. Jamie Sweet, from Lakerholics.com, he said, what's the sound of a balloon when the air is let out of it slowly? That's the Lakers free agency to date. Again, I don't want to go ahead and judge too much on the Lakers offseason.
Summer League teams look good, though.
Yeah, Summer League, that's correct. They just finished another blowout.
Did they win the game tonight?
Yes, they just beat the Golden State Warriors, I believe 100-77, if I'm not mistaken. Let me go ahead and check the final score. So that's 2 blowouts in a row for the Los Angeles Lakers. It was with a 100-77 victory over the Golden State Warriors. Want to go ahead and give a shout out. Again, the good is the fact that Jay Huff in his second year, this is where you see in the Summer League, and this is something that if you watch the Summer League long enough, you should see the second-year players start to go ahead and take that next step each and every year. If they're not, then there's obviously some issues there, but they should take that next step. You should see better performances, and we're seeing that from Jay Huff. We're also seeing that from Mac McClung. We're seeing those great performances there as far as more and more from those second-year players as they become more accustomed to playing that level of Summer League basketball. You also see good performances from the players who played 3 and 4 years in college basketball, such as with Scottie Pippen Jr. and also as well a very, very good shooter as what Sean told me as being the steal of the draft so far. So Cole Swider, they both played very well today.
And they're saying he can shoot.
Yes.
How do you look on defense?
Well, that's another story altogether.
I'll find out and I'll let you know.
Allow allow me to chime in here because I was sending the Podfather emails about this. Look, last year, Gerald, I watched a lot of ACC play as well. I was watching the Georgia Tech basketball team, and there was this little guard that was all over the place. He was a defensive monster, and his name was Jose Alvarado. I thought, wow, this guy really looks
Heard
like
that name.
yeah, he could be an NBA guard. And so after the game was over, I just did a little research, and I'm looking at the draft rankings. He's not in the top 50. Okay. He's also not in the top 75. He's also not in the top 100. What's going on here? Because to me, I see an NBA player. And I came home one night last December, and I turn on an ACC game, and the Syracuse Orangemen are playing, and I see this guy named Cole Swider playing. And he hits a 3. Then he hits another 3. Then he hits 2 NBA threes. I'm thinking, whoa, this guy's pretty good. And you do some research on this kid. He played for Jay Wright. If you play and you start for Jay Wright, you have to do 2 things really well. You have to be able to shoot, and you have to be able to rebound. If you can't do either one of those 2 things, Jay Wright will not play you. So he decides he's going to go to Syracuse and learn how to play zone, because in the NBA now, you play zone. What? So he did a decent job. I would say this: his defense needs work, Gerald. No question about that.
That's 100%. Why he wasn't drafted. I mean, he's 8 for 13 so far on threes. That's a great sign. But can he stay on the floor defensively? That's what we're going to have to wait and see. We'll see how that develops over the course of the summer league. But Scottie Pippen Jr., great two-way player. Cannot extend with the long ball yet, but he's been a very good playmaker for the team so far in 2 games. Jay Huff, last year when he played in those, just few games for the Lakers, was a little bit slow-footed. I will say that athleticism was still an issue, but the guy can shoot from the outside, so you never know what's going to happen there. But I will say that the Lakers are going to go ahead and look a little bit better in summer league. I think people are going to be very happy with what they see with some really good performances. Max Christie, though, that's going to be someone that needs to develop. He looks a little bit undersized right now as far as from a body standpoint. It still needs to develop as far as some strength and his shooting. I know that that's been up for debate as well. We think that it'll develop because he's been able to shoot well from the free throw. And usually as an analyst, you're saying, okay, if they shoot well from the free throw line, they can eventually develop that outside game. So we'll see what happens with Max Christie. We'll see what happens with Cole Swider. I think we're going to go ahead and see a lot of threes from Cole Swider over the course of the next few days. Scottie Pippen, I think, is going to be a very good player over the course of the summer league. People are going to be impressed. But Joe, you seem to have some thoughts right there for you've got that mind control thing going on. Any last thoughts before we head on out?
No.
Okay, well, there you go. Well spoken indeed. LakerTom, Lakerholics.com. Please check out his latest article today at Lakerholics.com. Joe Soro is LakersBall.com. But any last thoughts, Tom, before we head on out?
Bring Kyrie and Joe Harris in. If you can expand the trade to include Seth Curry and Nick Claxton, I'd even be in favor of that.
Oh, there you go. But we would expand by obviously moving some dominoes and some chips as well.
THT and none.
And if that's the case,
cover all 4 of those guys.
Just have to teach Nick Claxton how to shoot a free throw. Sean,
what a defender, man! He can guard as a true center that you cannot chase off. You can chase him off the floor.
I'm not. You can't
chase him off the floor for his defense.
I am not disputing that, my friend. I'm just telling you he needs to learn how to shoot a free throw.
It's a guy who is a 7-footer who can guard a guard
and can't shoot a free throw. But Sean, go. Any last thoughts before we head on out?
You know what, Gerald? I have to be honest and say, as being a Laker fan over the past decade, with parts rebuilding, parts disaster, a championship, one thing I've really come to learn and appreciate and basically think that it's going to happen is that our scouting staff finds players that can play in the NBA, and consistently they've been doing that for the past 8 years.
Rotation players.
Yes, rotational players, not just guys at the end of the bench like Josh Powell and all due respect, I love you, DJ Benga, but you guys were at the end of the bench. They found Alex Caruso's, they found Jordan Clarkson's, they found Austin Reeves. So it's almost an expectation as a Laker fan now that eventually they'll find somebody. They're going to get them to be able to develop, and they're going to become an NBA player. And that's one thing I'm proud of as a Laker fan.
Well, there you go, indeed.
Just
but
wish
it
we
is.
had Caruso still.
Oh, well,
Don't get us started,
man.
LakerTom. That's another
on.
hour of just growling all together there. Please don't get us started.
It's true though. We always look at the one mistake and turn it into this. Oh, Jeannie sucks and Rob sucks and the whole team sucks. And
just some things are such a huge mistake.
Sometimes things don't. Just a little thing veers this way. But one thing you can't deny, guys. Since John Randall, Jesus, I've been watching football just today. Since Julius Randle in 2014, the Lakers have been stout in their drafting and in their player development and in finding diamonds in the rough. It's just that they made one blunder that resonated in the annals of history, which is...
Let's separate the scouting department from the front office who's making the trade.
It's the same people making the decision,
signing people, because DeAndre Jordan, Andre Drummond, and a whole list of, players that...
You got. I think. I don't know. Maybe
really
they want to play with their friends. They all want to play with. They're all friends. They want to play with their friends. Come on, man. Don't you want to play with your friends?
Yeah, you playing with
I
your
want to
friends.
do a podcast with my friends, but I'm stuck with you guys.
That's one thing. But playing with them 2 or 3 weeks in the Olympics.
You ever watch Chevy Chase? You ever watch Chevy Chase in his prime?
Oh, we're good friends. We played in the All-Star game together.
Chevy Chase in his prime used to do this thing where he'd put his hand around you like, yeah. That's what they should have done whenever they wanted to play with their friends. Just like, yeah. Never.
Well,
it
comes to a point where
be friendly but be insulting at the same time.
Do you think that Kevin Durant wants to play with Kyrie Irving anymore? Do you think they're still good friends?
When did they play together? What, they didn't play 90 games? They barely played with each other.
I tell you what, everybody out there on the chat has been made some great comments today. Blue Magic finished it off with some great thoughts. I do think they paid a little bit more for Lonnie Walker than what they should have, what they could have. So I don't really think
the guy would sign a 1-year deal for the MLE.
There you go.
That's
See, there
down to
desperation indeed. But we'll see.
Gerald's all, I don't know why they did this, and then within 1 second, LakerTom answers it, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh yeah, that's right."
I think you could have. I think you could have signed him for less. At least you could have done something as far as getting someone, maybe splitting it up between.
The question is, why him?
Yeah, that's another reason.
Clutch.
Someone who can't shoot. I don't really understand what that deal is.
I suspect that.
Oh, except against us, by the way. I'm sorry. I forgot.
Part of the decision.
That might be it.
Part of the decision making on the free agents that they were signing. Really involved Darvin Ham a lot, because he was in the room making the decisions along with Rob Pelinka. So and all of these guys are guys who fall into that category of extremely athletic, good
and it's youth
and young. They're young, they're tall, and they're long. And so I have to feel that the key in all of those was, will these develop into good defenders? I think that's the key that they're looking at. They really feel like they've got a bunch of guys that their development coaches can really turn into strong defensive players. And then they're going to get the shooting. They're going to get the shooting, as Blue Magic said. They're going to get the shooting from the trades.
Well,
that's
I wish
it's going to come from.
I wish that
and Kyrie Irving and Joe Harris would add 40% 3-point shooters to the lineup.
Well, guys, I agree with Blue Magic, though. Not enough wings, not enough focus on that. A little bit repetitious on the guard spot, but again, we'll see what happens there. It is
Scarcity
younger
issue.
team. It is younger, so I'll give them that. I do like the fact that they did focus on a younger team. Blue Magic, Otto Porter signed for $12.4 million for 2 years, $6.2 million per year. I mean, it was something that the Lakers, he was out there when the Lakers were looking. So, I think that Otto Porter, I've said it for years. I said it last offseason, and I said Otto Porter would have been a great pickup this offseason.
He was
But
at the top of my list.
yeah, so I don't know what to tell you, Blue Magic. Rob is not perfect, as we've seen. So hopefully that the players that we got now will be good rotational players for the Lakers, and that they can get Kyrie Irving, and they can close the trade out to get some assets that the Lakers can go forward with a better team and a better representation going forward indeed. But we will wait and see what happens. We'll be back later this week, definitely for sure. But how soon? How soon is dependent on the Lakers themselves. If they go ahead and make some moves, like a Kyrie Irving move, you're going to see LakerTom smile from ear to ear. That's for sure, because, he has willed this to happen. He has willed this to happen for Kyrie Irving coming to the Lakers. So hopefully that will come true. But if something does break, we'll be on sooner this week. Otherwise, we're here Wednesday or Thursday night. We're definitely going to drop Indeed. But if you have any questions for us, always LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com or LakersFastBreak on Twitter. We're always there as well. Facebook, you can go ahead and like our page, send a comment there. We'd love to hear from you. And of course, subscribe. You guys have been on YouTube, been an outstanding crew. You're building, you're growing, you're more and more, you're watching. We cannot thank you enough. You're just so tremendous during our free agency coverage, so tremendous with us tonight. We truly appreciate it. Again, subscribe if you can. We need all the subscribers we can get. So be a part of the action right here at the Lakers Fast Break. But for Joe Soro at LakersBall.com, go ahead and check out him on any one of the great groups that they have today at LakersBall.com. LakerTom, his latest article, and Jamie Sweet's latest articles are up at Lakerholics.com. Be part of the conversation today at Lakerholics.com. Shout out once again to our good friends at the Hoopheads Podcast Network. We have actually increased as well the number of people listening to our audio podcast. So big shout out, 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And of course, anything that happens sooner, we'll go ahead and report it here. But you can always expect it this week. Safe and happy 4th of July week for you and everyone in your family from all of us right here at the Lakers